So, revolutionary greetings, comrades. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you around with us today, and to appreciate your presence to joining our class today. Basically, this is a class where we do the reading. So we read and actually share our thinking or critically analyze the text in order for us to grade or to gain some conscious understanding. The book is called Consciousism. It was written by Kwame Nkrumah so many years ago, in the 1960s, with a philosophy that he prescribed for liberation, unification, and development of Africa. Nkrumah, all of us, maybe or some of us know that Nkrumah was a philosopher. He actually had a degree in philosophy and also a degree in theology. And therefore, he actually got exposed to so many philosophies, as he explained to us in the introduction of this book. And he says many of us, so-called, he called them the colonial students, also gets exposed to various philosophies and philosophers, that then make them out of their education to either be liberal, conservatives, or progressive. So Nkrumah, having been exposed to so many philosophies, including those so-called Marxism, they were present then, capitalism, and any other philosophy. So Nkrumah got exposed to all this philosophy. And in his struggle to order to come and decolonize and actually try to liberate Ghana, Nkrumah tried to come up with what, out of his understanding, out of his exposure, what philosophy and ideology he felt and believed is the right Pan-African philosophy and ideology that should be used or can be used to decolonize Africa. Decolonization of Africa, people will maybe tend to say, is over because Africa is no longer colonized. But that's not true. Colonialism ended, but neocolonialism never ended. So Africa entered into a phase of neocolonialism. And in this state of Africa, we are still not liberated. And that's why, of course, May 25th, that marks Africa Liberation Day, that some people feel that it should not be Africa Liberation Day, rather it should be Africa Day, should be still be examined. Because to Nkrumah, if you move forward in this book, he gives 3 stages that are necessary. And the first stage he actually insists and focuses on is the liberation of Africa. By liberating Africa, what do Nkrumah mean? Some say, of course, as he goes along, he discovers that in order for Africa to be united, one liberated territory must unite with another liberated territory to actually safeguard their liberation. Liberation is total liberation from all neocolonial power, all neocolonial stream. This includes even mental liberation, liberating our mind of those so-called elites from being so liberal or being so conservative to be progressive and or be radical Pan-Africans. A liberated territory is a territory that is fully independent and has all the authority to use their resources and anything within their power to make decisions in their government. For sure, if you look at African context today, will you say Africa is liberated? Well, we still have so many foreign militaries in Africa. So many Africans still depend on loans from the West. The West is still involved deeply in our businesses, our mining, our politics, our culture. We ourselves still talk, speak, embrace Western culture. So such a people, such a territory cannot be claiming to be liberated. And therefore is our strong position that instead of celebrating Africa Day, Africa cannot be celebrated as Africa Day and move it from Africa Liberation Day because the liberation of Africa is not yet complete. Then Nkrumah recommends the next phase, which will come later, that once a territory is liberated, the next territory should be liberated. And this liberation starts from an individual, mental liberation. which is called PA. When we move along, we'll come across the where Nkrumah now use mathematical symbols like PA to NA, PA positive action, NA negative action. So that positive action, which means liberated actions or liberated individuals, must unite with other liberated individuals, like what you're trying to do today, in order to build a strong territory. Now, a liberated country in Africa must unite with a liberated country in Africa in order to unite them together so that unity then safeguards their liberation. Today, the biggest hurdle to us is the liberation of Africa, because so many countries within Africa are not yet liberated. So there's no unity of equals in terms of forces that can then unite the continent. Once the continent is united after liberation, then the continent can be developed. But Nkrumah introduced us to two main philosophies, in fact ideologies or philosophies, that actually occupy the world today. And these two are the idealism and materialism. Idealism, whom we call them idealists, and materialism, whom we call them materialists. And it gives the differences in between. That the materialists, the so-called hardcore materialists, believe that matter is the primary existence, is a sole reality, that the world is made up of matter, either nature or natural. While idealists believe that the world is made up of spirits and ideas. The world of the universe is controlled by the spirits of God or any other spirits up there. And therefore, they don't actually believe in science having control on the universe. So these have been the two opposing ideologies all along, the materialist and idealist. But Nkrumah brings consciousness, which is a middle philosophy and ideology that takes into consideration, yes, existence of spirits and ideas, but also the existence of universe in terms of matter. Then its positions come in to say that the primary reality, which means the primary object in the universe, is matter. And from matter, we can derive to any other form of matter. Air is a form of matter. Spirit is a form of matter. Brain, thinking, anything else is a form of matter, but in different category. What now is called categorical conversion. And there's a processes that Nkrumah explained how categorical conversion takes place. And therefore, this takes into consideration that matter is not the sole reality, but matter is the primary reality, where other spirits, ideas can come from matter. This is a position that the hardcore materialists do not share, neither the hardcore idealists do not share the same position. So consciousness is a central philosophy and ideology that recognize or bring together the materialist and the idealist, with the focus that matter is the primary reality and spirits and the rest are secondary or derivative reality through dialectics. And this brother Carrington, actually, who is here with us, raised in physicist, explained a lot because it involved a lot of science and physics. Then Nkrumah introduced us to aspect of materialism. Now, what do materialism depends on? What now we call philosophical materialism, not materialism in terms of love of material well-being or accommodation, philosophical materialism. And this is philosophical materialism depends on logical concepts and science. And logic, where he comes with three conceptual tools, which is constructionism, nominalism, and reductionism, with inclusion of science. Idealists tend not to believe in aspect of science, and they are so much focused on solipsism, individualism, and that's what brings this aspect of capitalism, of individualism, and either liberalism or conservative of an individual. But from matter position, we know that we are all same being coming from the same matter. So this is what we travel all along in the first chapter of philosophy in retrospect. Now, Nkrumah is introducing us to the relationship between philosophy and society, what we call now philosophy and society. We've been doing some reading to this page or this paragraph, second chapter, and this is a continuation. So Nkrumah has been taking us a bit to reflect to this philosopher Thales, who actually his ideology is more materialism. Berkeley believes in spirits. And this is where we are analyzing so many things, including in aspect of Thales, including the European Renaissance and all those aspects in relation to that. So our paragraphs today start with the paragraph written The History of Greek Democracy, which is a continuation of our previous reading. So that's where we proceed from here. So once again, comrades, feel most welcome. What we do daily is read a paragraph and ask members to share their thinking or understanding from that paragraph on what do you understand. So the paragraph I've highlighted is the previous paragraph in our previous class. So once again, feel most welcome. I think it was very wise enough or very important for us to catch up with what you've read all along so that you can be together with us or at par with us as we move together forward. Thank you very much, comrades. So yes, Brother Nkrumah Kafra, please.
Yes, good day, everyone. Nkrumah is back, but with a difference. Okay. What I want to mention is that, well, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. I came down to earth in Trinidad and Tobago, right? I practice ancient Black spirituality. And from everything I'm hearing here, I'm not trying to bad-talk Kwame Nkrumah, but that's what he understood at that time. Everything I'm hearing here is really Western culture. Because for ancient Black people that built the greatest civilizations the world has ever known, spirituality encompasses every aspect of life. Every single thing is spiritual. And even matter is part of your spirit. So it is very important for us to understand our spiritual anatomy. And yes, your spirit has an anatomy the same way your physical body has an anatomy. Okay? And I studied physics and chemistry and zoology and all of these things. I'm an IT professional, but I studied all those sciences at university level also. And I was really fond of physics. And I know that any physical thing has, and some people call it a halo, it has an electromagnetic energy around it from whence it comes. So it's not the matter that existed first, it's the spirit, the main spirit of the thing that had existed first, from which the matter comes forth.
Okay, thank you for your position, which is not our position. And as you say, you come from physics. We have, in fact, a resident physicist here. It's good that you recognize you come from physics. And we must also realize that Nkrumah also had a degree in theology. So he studied theology, which is more spirits, together with philosophy. So I understand your position and I appreciate it. But this
but remember
is
I said I practice ancient Black spirituality.
There's no problem with your whatever you've studied, but you mentioned physics as a counter to this. And a physicist is here. In fact, a student of physics. We are not to have that discussion today. We are moving on with that. If you challenge Nkrumah's position, is well and good. You can present your counter-challenge position. But this is what you read in consciousism, which is actually trying to bring together the hardcore spiritual idealists, like what you prefer on spirits, which is idealism, and the hardcore materialist, bringing them together to recognize both presence or existence of both spirits and matter. This is the position Nkrumah is taking. So there's hardcore idealists, like those who believe in the position you take in spirituality, and there's hardcore materialists who don't believe at all in the existence of spirits, which is not this position of this class. This class of Nkrumah accepts the existence of both and try to bring
that is why I said that ancient Black spirituality encompasses every single thing, of which the matter is part of the spirit. So in other words, our ancient Black ancestors already had it together, worked it together. And that's what we need to study, because our ancient Black ancestors are the only ones that were able to build great civilizations. Today, we don't live in civilization. This is barbarism.
Okay,
so we need to embrace our ancient Black spirituality. It is talking about every single thing that we are talking about here, but we need to put it into perspective.
Okay, thank you. I will not indulge this further to do our discussion, but simple question will be, did your spirit existed before you existed as a human being? Or did the spirit find you as a being? Leave even an aspect of our ancestors existing. Did the spirit of our ancestors existed before our ancestors existed?
Okay, to answer your question, I am not a human being. That is a white man's concept. And that concept comes from the human brain. And that human brain is Satan itself. It's one of the two animal brains in your head, the reptilian and the mammalian brain. That's a white man's concept, human. We are divine beings. We are not human beings. We are divine beings. I'm not a Christian, but that's what it means by being made in the image and likeness of God. You can, when a dog has a puppy, those puppies are made in the image and likeness of their parents. But when God creates man, God creates God. Who you are is God. And that
so let's
is...
have this conversation. Brother, permit me to say this. Let's have this conversation later. And if you are willing to do a presentation on your position, which you actually speak about, we can give you another session in our Saturdays, which is always open for this all-round conversation. This Thursday is meant for this study of this philosophy and ideology, which if you are willing to study, you are welcome to study it. If you have a position that you think you need to present to us, we request that you do it on our Saturday classes where we have an open conversation where we can listen to this perspective and have a cross-examinations of ideas.
Oh, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but isn't this all part of the discussion?
The discussion what you're doing here is our discussion is based on the reading on what is put here. So please permit us to do the discussion based on the book here.
Okay.
Yeah, so we will have a session, if you wish, to present that aspect of Black spirituality so that we can also have a conversation about it, but on our Saturday classes. Okay, thank you. So permit me to, we go straight to what we do. What we do is we read the text here and discuss it as it is shared here. So once again, most welcome. So in our previous class, which I'll read the text in yellow, that's what we studied in the previous class, or what we read in the previous class. Then we can proceed with the class today, which I'll ask, of course, Brother Carrington to read for us the class that started with "there were consequently" down here. So let me do just a reading of the previous class reading, which we'll not discuss. We'll discuss the new one. So it starts from where it says that the history of Greek democracy, for example, must really be traced to Thales or Thales. Thales spearheaded two revolutions. The first revolution matured in his attempt to explain nature in terms of nature. The second revolution consisted in his belief that the unity of nature consisted not in its being, but in its materiality. The social milieu or milieu in which Thales lived encouraged him to insist on explaining nature in terms of nature. In Iona, where he lived, political power was becoming entrenched in the hands of mercantile class, which had a vested interest in the development of nautical techniques and techniques of productions. For it was on such techniques that their prosperity hinged. More so when their society later became more firmly based on slave labor. The Greeks, as Xenophon confirms in his Economics, came to regard mechanical art with contempt. But in Thales' time, individuals, including philosophers, depended more on their own productivity for sustenance. Indeed, during one particularly good olive harvest, Thales astutely cornered the available olive presses in militaries and subsequently hired them out at exorbitant rates. Owing to the change in the structure of society, whereby socio-political hegemony passed into the hands of the mercantile oligarchs, prosperity no longer depended in a crucial way on propitiation of the gods in connection with agriculture. It depended on commerce with its ancillaries, whereby the Ionians' products were marketed along and across the Mediterranean. That's what we studied last time. So, Brother Carrington, can you read for us the paragraph starting with "there was"? This is now the paragraph for our discussion today.
Thank you very much, Brother Pigeon. How are you, everyone, brothers and sisters, elders? Thank you very much for having me.
Greetings.
I will. Thank you. I will start. There was consequently no need to explain the world by reference to the gods. Thales' intellectual predecessors had invoked supernature in order to explain nature. But if the gods were to be explanatory devices for accounting for phenomena, then there was nothing to prevent the most vicious inequalities from arising in society. Where gods are used to account for nature, a certain degree of sacerdotal power is inevitable. And where priests have wielded political power, it is not only explanations of natural phenomena which have been bemused with theology. Theological explanations for social phenomena have also been encouraged. With the priests securely installed as the only authorized popularizers of the divine will, the only persons fitted by calling and by grace to expound mystic purposes, social inequalities arise to fortify their exclusive role. And since their power is thought of as being rooted in the divine will, it becomes hard to contest. It therefore assumes the form of an authoritarianism, which, if unhindered, can come to revel in the most extreme oppression. The history of societies in which priests have wielded political power abundantly illustrates this tendency.
Thank you very much. So, comrades, that's our reading today. And we actually ask members here to share their thinking in regards to the reading. What's your thinking to that text? That's what you're interested in. Can you share your thinking in regards to the read text? Yes, Brother Nkrumah.
I know. I put up my hand.
Yes, Brother Nkrumah.
Yes, just to get things a bit right. When our ancient Black ancestors spoke about the gods, a god for ancient Black people is a force of nature. So ancient Black religion, spirituality was all about science. It was complete science. Okay? The same is just that what we exist in today really cannot be called science. You know why? Because their science is based on research and finding out. If you check out the meaning of the word science, it means to know. And there's a part of our spirit that knows the solution to all problems in the world, and we need to access it. That's all I'll say for now.
Thank you. Let me check. Anybody who is willing to come very fast to share their thinking, just raise your hands. I'll go to you. But kindly just share your thinking in regards to this text read. What's your thinking to it? That's what we ask any member present to share their thinking in regards to the text read. I'll do it again silently or peacefully or slowly so that you can reread with me and find at the end of my reading how you can come in and share your thinking with us. The paragraph 6 says that there was consequently no need to continue to explain the world by reference to the gods. Thales' intellectual predecessors had invoked supernature in order to explain nature. Remember up there, we were told that the two revolutions Thales was pushing was explaining nature in terms of nature, and that other second revolution. So here goes IBC. But if the gods were to be explanatory devices for accounting for phenomena, then there was nothing to prevent the most vicious inequality from arising in society. Where gods are used to account for nature, a certain degree of sacerdotal power is inevitable. And where priests have wielded political power, it is not only explanations of natural phenomena which have been bemused with theology. Theological explanations for social phenomena have also been encouraged. With the priest securely installed as the only authorized popularizers of the divine will, the only persons fitted by calling and by grace to expound mystic purposes, social inequality arise to fortify their exclusive role. And since their power is thought of as being rooted in the divine will, it becomes hard to contest. It therefore assumes the form of an authoritarianism, which, if unhindered, can come to reveal in the most extreme oppression. The history of societies in which priests have wielded political power abundantly illustrate this tendency. So kindly, comrades, share with us your thinking in regards to that paragraph. Yes, Sister Ida? Sister Ida?
Sorry, I thought I was unmuted. I was saying that I think I'm happy to share my opinion, which is where people rise to a power that is allowed to discriminate and to say that they know what is best, either because they're the only people who can read the books that they're trying to tell other people about, or they've just managed to get into such a position and therefore think that others are beneath them. So instead of listening to whatever might be in the books, they make up their own explanations, I think, and use that as a way of dominating other people, wielding political power. I have a feeling that that's what I'm seeing from what has been put here, because it even says the history of societies in which priests have wielded political power abundantly illustrates that the tendency for them to abuse that power, I think, is what is being said. So I think I'll leave it at that and let somebody else take up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Sister Ida. I'll move to Brother Nkrumah, then I go to DJ Mr. P, then I'll go to Brother Carrington, in that order. Brother Nkrumah?
Okay, yeah. Yes. The problem, that I'm seeing that we are having here is that our problems today, everything that was read in the book there, it comes from the distortion of Black culture by whites ever since they invaded our civilizations long ago, right? That's one thing. Our next thing for us to understand is that everything in life is cyclical. Civilizations rise and civilizations fall. And if you study astrology and the rotation of the constellations, anytime a different constellation becomes invoked, which is like every 25,800 years, you have a different kind of energy. And in physics, we call this constructive interference if the constellation has the same kind of energy as an object on Earth. The bottom line is that every race on this Earth has their time in the sun. And that is why the white man was able to rise up and take over and do what he did. Okay, it has nothing to do with anything else. What's that? Yeah, it was the white man's time in the sun, and oh, what a mess he has made. But his time is up. Okay, I'll give the floor to somebody else.
Thank you. Let me go to Brother Carrington first. Brother Carrington, can you come in? You can.
I thought it was DJ Mr. P first before me. I don't want to jump the line.
Now, I want to put this physical and the physics aspect to this conversation as a continuation. Then I get to Brother Mr. P. Please, Mr. P, permit me to do that.
No problem, my brother. It's fine.
Thank you.
It's fine.
Okay. I will be forthright with the people in the group and Brother Nkuruma. I personally do not, I am, as people in the group probably know by now, I am a materialist through and through. I do not subscribe to spiritual explanations for material problems, and I will explain this in the work. And I also don't subscribe too strongly to celestial sort of stars and sun explanation for material problems on Earth. Now, the sun and the stars are an important part of our life, our culture. It is definitely true. I come through my father's branch, from a Nilotic people. Nilotic people use the stars, especially the Rift Nilotes, use the stars to navigate. However, I would say that the reasons the Europeans were able to establish an empire throughout the world in the last 100 years, which has collapsed or is collapsing, are entirely material and human. That would be my school of thought. I would resist very strongly the aspiration of this to the stars or to the sun or to astrophysical laws of nature. Actually, I would ascribe a lot of this power to the ability of Western civilizations to understand, not just understand, but also use. So there's understanding and also using knowledge, which they were able to do effectively through the Industrial Revolution, which began in the United Kingdom and spread throughout continental Europe and throughout the world. And this was the basis of much of the conflict that led to the subjugation of Africa, East Asia, and South America. So that's my understanding. And therefore, our solutions to be able to manage our continent on our own entirely are material and human. They need the reorganization of human societies by human beings using human means. They're entirely material, right? Okay, now let me get to the passage. Kwame Nkrumah is using the Greeks. The Osagefo is using the Greeks as an example, an instrument, an example of the evolution of societies in response to technology and knowledge and mercantilization, trade. So the first thing you need to see is this idea of supernature explaining nature. This is normally the default position of very many societies, except very few interesting tribes in Congo, interestingly, who do not have supernatural entities in their in their social organization, which is completely interesting. But the default is usually to use the supernatural to understand the order that you are seeing, the physical order that you are seeing in your world, the rising and setting of the sun and of the moon and rain. Now, once you have carried this step, there needs to be a class of people to explain the meaning, the connection of the supernatural to the natural. This class of people are called in this passage the sacerdotal class. Sacerdotal means priestly. And this class, because of its control of knowledge, ends up controlling the society. And very, very quickly, not only is God's spirits used to explain natural order, it is also used to explain social order. And that's why the most important thing in the Bible were the priestly class, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. The most important class in Israel were the Pharisees and the Sadducees. It's because this class of people who interpret social order and natural order accumulate a lot of real material, financial, and political power on themselves. So Sister Ida has raised a very important point about the Catholic Church essentially in Western Europe, writing the Bible and maintaining the Bible in Latin, which no people in Western Europe understood or read except for the priestly class. So you're going to church and it's still actually ironically there in the Catholic Church. And I'm not attacking the Catholic Church, it's just the practice. And then there are these very nice sonorous verses read in Latin by a priest who understands the Latin, has been trained for years to read and understand the Latin to an illiterate church population, church-going population. And this is used by the aristocratic class and the priestly class to maintain this power on the peasants. And Europe was just one of the first societies to do this. By the way, there was a priestly class in Timbuktu, in the Songhai and Mali empires of West Africa for centuries. But in Europe, what happened was the accident of the printing press, where people learned to print books, and not just to print books, but to print books using Roman letters in their own language. And this led to the Reformation of the church, and later on to the Renaissance, and later on to the Industrial Revolution. This is the peasant class and the merchant class essentially rebelling against the priestly and aristocratic class. So, in this passage, Kwame Nkrumah is just talking about this inequality. And this is important. Now I'll finish by explaining why it is important in the case of Africa. This is extremely important in the case of Africa because it helps us understand what is happening in the continent, especially in the lost decade of the 1980s. The 1980s is normally described as the lost decade by most historians of Africa. Why? Africa basically stagnated in this period. Throughout the continent, there was stagnation, almost no progress, technological, economic, and social. In fact, there was regression in some cases. A lot of the reasons that were given for these dictators, this political class, this corrupt political class, maintaining their social power and economic power over the African population was very simple. Exactly the same reason that was supplied by the Europeans for maintaining their control over the rest of the continent. It was that it is the will of God. It is the way of things. It is natural. God wills it that we suffer. This was used by people to cope with their oppressors, whether black or white. And this is why it is important to understand the roots of this power. This using of the mystical to explain the material is a dangerous game. It is a game of thrones. It is a game of power. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Carrington, for your great presentation. Brother DJ Mr. P?
Yes, good evening, my brother. I'm gonna pass, yeah?
Okay, let's go to Brother Amon Bagarukayo. Brother Amon Bagarukayo. Brother Nkrumah, I'll come back to you because we have to give each person time to share their thinking, then I'll come back to you. You already shared your thinking, so I'll move along the list in that order. If you're not able to share your thinking, just let me pass so that I move to the next person. I want to hear from everybody here. So, Brother Amon?
So that you pass it over to another person.
Okay, let's go to Sister Mary X. Sister Mary X or Mary X. Okay. Brother Joseph Anton. Around turn.
Yeah, are you hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good day to all comrades here.
Greetings.
When I reflect on the passage, a number of things come up. One of it is, what are the examples of modern day gods as can compare with what is written in the passage as in terms of those who wield power, who design what the rest of the society do? Have people thought about it that much? And could I suggest that when you look at the multinational companies and so on in the capitalist realm, these are the gods in modern day, mainly the gods in the modern day experience of us, we humans. Just so that I'll share that. But also knowing that religion, for instance, had the potential and had at one time was what is called agency of political power. And even Marx talk about it being the opium of the people. You can see how power evolved, of shifting from one group to the other based on the philosophy that have been in operation at the time. And of course, studying Kwame work now is helping to amplify the understanding in this way, man. Thank you, Brother Carrington, for the explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Brother Joseph. Let me move to my list. Brother January Mvula. And Brother Amon, Amon, you say pass. January Mvula, are you able to share your thinking with us? Sister Mary X, I'll share with you the text you are reading via WhatsApp as a text so that you can either respond to it right from your device. Okay, Brother January Mvula seems to be not in a position to speak. Let me get to Sister Myra. Sister Myra?
Hello. Hello.
Oh, January Mvula, proceed. Then we'll go to Sister Myra later.
Yeah, of course, I haven't seen much of the literature because I'm using a phone and I'm also on my way. So I'm sorry, but next week I'll focus on that.
Okay, thank you. But you have the text via your WhatsApp text. I've sent it like a message in your WhatsApp, so you can easily access it so that you can respond. You don't need to struggle to check on the screen, but you can easily just go to your WhatsApp text and you can read the paragraph you're reading today so that you can respond to it if you have a problem with your screen. So,
okay, thank you. I'll focus on it.
Okay, thank you. Let me get to Sister Myra. Sister Myra?
I think he's trying to describe, to me, what jumps out at me is it's a description of any oppressive system. There's always those that wield the power. So in those days, it was the priests, because they were the only ones that could interpret these messages from the gods. Then there are always those that are oppressed. And then there's these powerful people who they'll create social inequalities, and then they'll do everything they can to maintain the status quo by having there's always a reason. So in those days, it was the gods have said, and we are the divine interpreters, or whatever. Then I'm also struck by the fact that this changes. Then there was no need for the priests anymore, because now their economies were changing. And Brother Carrington talked about the Industrial Revolution. So around that time, they thought, this slavery won't work anymore. Now we need to make these Africans produce whatever we want for our own industries. So again, they shifted their whole organization or their philosophy. And obviously then they dressed up. So they create reasons, this will be good because there'll be exchange, there'll be trade, you see. And then eventually there'll be equal trade. The theory by an economist called David Ricardo. And again, I think also in present day, you see these oppressions on large scales or small scales. The patriarchy, for example, in many cultures, it's the men that have the power, and obviously it's the women that are the underdogs. And when you ask, of course, God said so, culture says so, there's always a reason for these oppressive systems to keep on reproducing. And the people that have the power have a reason and interest in maintaining the status quo no matter what. The same as the neocolonizers now. They want to keep us where we are because obviously they are gaining trade-wise and economically. So I think for me, it kind of just shines light on how oppressive systems have worked from then, when it was the priests, to now where we are. We are still going, and such is the world. I yield.
Thank you, Sister Myra. Welcome, Brother Kwame. You will actually Brother Kwame is our chair, and I'll allow him to chair moving forward. But let me first of all get to Sister Marie.
Yeah,
sorry. Sister Marie, can you hold on? Sister, brother Pigeon, continue to chair until I say otherwise. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sister Marie, can you proceed?
Right, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Me?
Yes,
okay,
we can hear
fine.
you.
All right, I'm going to be very quick. All the points that have been made so far, are valid.
Man, it's just mess up everything. Love making everything is out the window. Well,
Sorry. Everything that's been said so far is valid, but to me, in actually ingesting and digesting all of what has been said, that to me there's this underlying thing about spirit, even when you're talking about materialism. Because yes, these people have their agenda. Yes, they're very materialistic or very much that way orientated, etc. But the way they've been able to get what they've wanted, and not necessarily needed, because there's plenty for everybody, is by breaking the African spirit. Because there's this theory that they've used in terms of, if you want to control someone, then you break the mind. And I think to a certain extent, that's exactly what they've done to us. And some of us have lost our way in terms of having that internal conversation, not only within ourselves, but with those around us. And I think whilst it may sound irrelevant within the context of the subject, I think the mantra, Africans and Africa must unite, has become even the more poignant because of this. I yield.
You, Sister Brother Taiwo, can you share with us your thinking in regards to the text? Brother Taiwo? Brother Taiwo, are you able to share your thinking? Okay, Brother Ras Pala. Brother Ras Pala?
Yes, General.
Yeah, kindly share your thinking with us in regards to the paragraph.
Hey, my brother, man, let me. I've been long since I've been here, man. Hey, let me pass. But I'm gonna share maybe after some few speakers.
Thank you, Brother Taiwo. Back to you again. Are you able to share your thinking with us in regards to the paragraph, or should we pass? Okay. Brother DJ Mr. P, we passed you in our last round. Are you now able to share your thinking?
You can pass me again. It's okay. Yeah,
Okay.
what I picked up from the passage was it's really about, back in the day, it was all about this hocus pocus, godly being in the sky that ruled and controlled everyone and everything. And the people that were important were in society were these priests, these high priests, and whatever they said is what everybody had to do, and they made all the decisions and the laws and the rules, etc. And which isn't really much different to today, to be honest. And but back then, people would fear these high priests and look up to them as the leaders of their society. And naturally, these people were the fat cats, and they controlled everything, and they wanted to maintain that. So that part is something that stuck out for me, and it doesn't really make much difference to what we see happening today with the governments. Unless people are able to critically think and analyze accordingly, nothing has changed in the last couple of thousand years in terms of the status quo. Yeah, we've got technology. Yeah, we have science, etc. But in terms of how the people in charge ruled back then, it's not great, hugely different to how they're doing it now. Because, for example, you only need to look at this whole COVID saga and this worldwide hoax, as I call it, that happened 4 years ago, and they'd scare and frighten and terrify everybody into taking this vaccine, and only now they knew well.
Sorry, brother, be mindful of this vaccine thing.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
Just so you know, the video had been taken down because of discussions around COVID and vaccine. So be mindful of that.
Yeah. Sorry, I completely forgot. My apologies. But if we look back over the last
sorry,
last 4 years,
brother DJ Mr. P. That is not to say that we can't have a discussion on it. Yeah, we can make that a topic of discussion, so it becomes like a scientific discussion. In which case, it may be okay. Does that make sense?
Sure. No. It makes sense. It makes sense. It's just flagging. I understand, but you don't want to flag. Get it flagged. Yeah.
Thank you.
So when you check and look at that whole saga there, everybody was forced effectively into doing what they wanted us to do. And the people that did rebel were silenced or deplatformed, etc., etc. So not much has changed in that respect in the last couple of thousand years. So that little, there's a line in there on the passage that stuck out for me, and that was what I really got, from that passage. So I'll yield there for now.
Thank you, Mr. P. Of course, I believe even today our political leaders in Africa still go for the blessings of the priests and the pastors. But anyway, let me get to Michael X. Michael X.
Michael, were you there?
Greetings. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear you.
Okay, right, sorry, I'm in transit. What I've caught of the conversation, because I've been at work. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, brother.
We can hear you.
Okay,
we're listening.
Great.
We're listening.
Right. Now, what I've got of the conversation is, the talk about, how do we get back to what we were? And
Brother Michael.
Yeah.
Can you be able to see your screen, the text you are sharing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the bone of contention in our discussion, and that's what you're sharing our thinking around. So be guided with the text, and you are able now to form all your thinking surrounding the text in any way you want.
Okay, well, I haven't read the text, so I'm only going to be going by what I've heard. Okay, so come back to me and I'll read the text, okay?
Thank you. I'll give you time to read the text and then you respond to this and share your thinking. Okay, now I've gone through the list and I think everybody... Oh, Sister Tapua is here. Sister Tapua, you've been on and off. Are you able to share your thinking with us, sister?
Yeah, it's been frustrating for me today. I've just been dropped several times. I think I want to focus on the last bit of that paragraph, because for me, it's all to do with power and how power can be misused by whoever has it. So my question would be, are the problems that we have because of the religious leaders holding power different from any other form, any other part of society holding power? And how do we navigate that? So that's just what's been going on in my mind. I've been in and out, so I might just be totally out.
Okay, thank you. It's a good question, which of course we have to think about it. Yes, they hold power. They might not be the presidents of our countries as our pastors, but they dictate a lot in terms of who takes over political power, or even in the society. Anybody who goes for anointing or blessings, or anybody who kneel down and is prayed for will be converted to be a clean person just by kneeling and being prayed for. So yes, they still have a lot of weight on how our society runs, and it will be very important to see how we actually overcome this or go through this. But now, back to you, Brother Kwame. If you're in a position to share your thinking as well, then I'll go to Brother Nkrumah, whose hand is up after sharing his thinking in the first phase. Brother Kwame?
Yes, Brother Pigeon. So, yeah. So, so I think this paragraph is one of the uncontested or clear paragraph. The text is not too heavy, so that I think thinking can easily be formed around the text once it has been read. So I have heard a few views, and yeah. So what is this paragraph essentially telling us? So yes, as someone said, he's talking about power. What kind of power? What you would call sacerdotal power. What is sacerdotal power? There's a power held by priests. Yeah? And who are the priests? The priests are the, if you like, the spiritual hierarchy. And why do we have them? We have them because we have to explain the world, because we're explaining the world with reference to the gods. Who are the gods? The gods are the beings who are accredited with creating the world and sustaining the world. And with these beings, we can explain, that's the argument anyway, we can explain almost everything. And so if you want to know how this universe came to be, all you have to do is to say that so and so created this, so and so created that. Well, that is how so and so created it, and that is supposedly the explanation. So the question for us is, why is that the case? And in terms of our chapter, the chapter we are reading, let's remind ourselves, the chapter we are reading is the relationship between philosophy and society. That is the overarching paragraph, overarching, if you like, perspective that this paragraph, this whole chapter is if you like, explaining to us. So that in the previous paragraph, we looked at what we have inherited, and we saw that we inherited two things. We inherited if you like, the idea that the universe can be explained using spirits and their ideas. And then the other idea we inherited was that we can explain the universe through matter, and by matter we mean scientific matter. By scientific matter, we mean things like, if you want to explain water, you use the chemical elements hydrogen and oxygen. So water is two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen. That is water. If you have two atoms of hydrogen and two atoms of oxygen, you get hydrogen peroxide, which is not quite water. So that the constitution of our universe is very precise, and that is the universe as explained by reference to matter. And these are the only two philosophies there are. You know, let's not let anyone mislead us to think that there are many philosophies, there are many ideologies. Let's not be misled. There are only two main philosophies on this planet. Either you explain the universe through matter, or you explain it through spirit and their ideas. It's as simple as that. So having looked at what we inherited from chapter 1, which is philosophy in retrospect, we're now looking at, well, okay, so what is the relationship between philosophy and society? But why is that important? Why is it important for us to look at the relationship between philosophy and society? Why? Well, because the Pan-Africans, starting around 1901, when they started these Pan-African conferences, trying to find a solution to the problem of the position of the African on the planet. For those of you who know the history of Marcus Garvey, you will know that he was a printer, and he was wealthy, and he had money, so he traveled around the world, and everywhere he went, he found that the black man was at the bottom of the social hierarchy. He used his own money to travel around the world. Yeah. And when he had found out that everywhere he went, the black man was at the bottom of the social hierarchy, he decided that he wanted to change the world. So he went to America, and you all know the history. Or if you don't, please read the works, the philosophy and work of Marcus Garvey. So he came up with the idea of Africa for the Africans, and so on and so forth. So the reason we are looking at philosophy and society is that if you want to create a new society, you need a new philosophy. You can't use a philosophy that has created a problem in the first place to solve it. The problems of idealism cannot be solved. The problem of idealism cannot be solved with idealism. And if materialism creates a problem, you can't solve it with idealism either. The solutions to any problems caused by materialism must be solved within it. You see, so the reason we are looking at the relationship between philosophy and society is because we as Africans have the responsibility to create a new world. I think some of us have gone to sleep. A lot of Africans have gone to sleep. They think we've reached, especially when they are very wealthy and have cars and houses and so on, and have a lot of resources. They think they have reached. They think then there's no problem to be solved. You know, but as long as the majority of Africans live in poverty and their welfare is not the supreme law, there is a problem to be solved. You know, liberals and conservative leaders, as for them, they've gone to sleep completely. You know, they're actually snoring in the arms of imperialism. So there is the need to create a new society. And in those days, following the resurgence of Pan-Africanism after 1945, the 1945 Manchester Conference, there were magazines like The New African, and The New African, and so on, the New African Society. And the idea was that we here and our brothers and sisters are meant to create a new African society. And as I said, some of us have just gone to sleep. And the problem is when people get a little bit of money, then they go to sleep. And those who don't have the money say the money is evil, and so on and so forth. So that is why we are looking at this chapter is looking at philosophy and society. It's telling you or telling us that any society has an accompanying philosophy. And that is what this paragraph is telling you. In a society that is rooted in the priestly caste, if you like, where people farm or fish or keep animals or roam the jungle for natural products, where there is no science, there is no technology, there's not much engineering, there's not much mathematics. In such a society where everything is ascribed to gods, then arises from the people a caste, a group that say that they are close to this God, and that if only you looked after them, if only you gave them your offerings, if only you gave them your tithes, if only you made your sacrifices, and so on and so forth, that they can speak to this God on your behalf, and you'll be okay. And if there are no rains, that means that God must be angry, so we just have to pacify the God. In other words, the society, that kind of society, its philosophy was, if you like, some kind of divine or divine will society, and the chiefs, the kings that ruled in those society were said to be ruling by divine right. In other words, their power came from the gods. It had nothing to do with men and women that they were governing. So that's what this paragraph is telling us. So I'm just trying to remind us to keep an eye on the big picture. The big picture is that we live in a universe, and there are many aspects of that universe. And in that universe, you can find human society. And that human society that you find, any human society you find, will have a philosophy. And being the case that Africans overcame slavery and overcame colonialism, we have a new society to build. Yes, Brother Taiwo has reminded us that ethnic fractionalization will not help us. If that is the case, we will be discussing part 2 of that thesis tomorrow, not tomorrow, on Saturday. We'll be discussing it. But assuming that Brother Taiwo is right, then we have to find a solution. If the ethnic fractionalization of the African world, where we have many ethnicities and no one dominant one, if that will not enable us to unite Africa, then we have to rethink what it means to unite Africa. Okay, we have to rethink what it means. And if we are talking about a continental government for Africa, then we have to put our scientific and logical hat on and work hard. As Brother I don't know if Brother Koko is here, but he will tell you that you can farm thought. You can farm thought. And in my language, I've already said that in my language, thinking is akin to farming. So in my language, when you say you are thinking, we say it means you are farming thought. And farming is hard work. Thinking is hard work. So we have to put our logical and scientific thinking hat on and recreate the new African society that we want. But to do that, we need a new philosophy. And that is what this chapter continues to tell us again and again and again. Anyway, Thales, a Greek, challenged the priests. Why? Because society changed. How did it change? We saw earlier, it changed because those with wealth now were the traders, the merchants. So they did not depend on the rain. Well, their ships, when they go to sea, may depend on the wind that is blowing. But it wasn't the same as when you grew crops and you are waiting for water, for the rain, so that your corn would germinate and so on. It wasn't the same. So now the merchants were the people with money, with power. By power, I mean financial power. And as you know, if you have money, it can translate. If you have financial power, it easily translates into political power. But the people will listen to you because you have money. Yeah. So with that kind of society, where the priests are no more needed to pray for anyone, the philosophy will change. And that philosophy, that change in philosophy came from Thales, who said that water was the explanation for the universe. It wasn't the gods, it was water. You might ask, well, how did he come up with water? Well, because ships float on water, don't they? If ships float on water, and out of that you make a lot of money, then the water must explain the world. Then the water becomes the basis for explaining the world. So that is how Thales then began to explain the world. And so he then came up with a new philosophy, which, because water is matter, can be seen as one of the earliest materialist philosophy of the universe, of society, if you like. Brother Pigeon, I've said a lot. I don't know whether I should pause there.
Thank you. Brother Nkuma's hand was up. Maybe if I allow him to come in, then he may be coming in later, anytime.
Yeah, I can say a few things of some of the texts there.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm happy to pause for Brother Nkuma to.
No, can you just finish by saying a few things on the text so that Brother Nkuma can come in?
Okay, so you can see that firstly, when you try to explain the universe and society using the gods, inequalities will arise. Because if anybody says, by virtue of the fact that they are close to these gods or God, you have to listen to them, they have already created an unequal society. So it will be they, them, and us. They, the priests, and us, the non-priests, the non-priesthood. So already they create an unequal society. Now think about it. If we can all approach God and speak to God, because God is our Father, as the new theology that Jesus. So Jesus came with a new theology. You know, he came to fulfill the Old Testament. We are told, fulfill the Old Testament, came out with a new theology. In the new theology of Jesus, all of us are sons and daughters of God. Yeah, there is no need for any high priest for us to go to any house of God for them to pray for us. You can fast and pray yourself. You can talk to God. In fact, you don't even need to go to church because God is everywhere. And as Paul, Paul said that you can pray anywhere. Yeah. So that new theology is, if you like, a theology of equality before God. So then you could argue that the theology of Jesus has actually come to do away with inequality. But that is not how it played out in the hands of the Catholic Church and in the hands of the popes. And it is they who give the edicts for the enslavement of Africa. As you well know, Brother Pigeon here has done a presentation for us on that topic on a Saturday. So has another brother, I'm trying to remember his name, who also did extensive presentations on us for about, I think, 5 Saturdays in a row on this issue. Brother Foucault, that's it, on this very issue. So if you are interested in that, you can go onto our WhatsApp group and listen to that discussion. And the one brother Pigeon did that really brought a lot of people onto our YouTube channel. So there is a question of inequality. And that is why, if we want to create a new African society, we cannot create it based on spirits and gods, because it will create inequality. That's the first point I want you to note. The other point is the question of divine right, which I have touched on. That the idea that some people have the divine right to rule us or to rule you, because God has given them the power, if you like. So that is also one idea in here. So with the priest securely installed as the only authorized popularizers of the divine will, the only persons fitted by calling and by grace to expound mystic purposes, social inequalities arise to fortify their exclusive role. Okay, and since their power is thought as being rooted in the divine will, it becomes hard to contest, and that's the problem. You can't contest God. So if you see, you can't fight God. That is, if you see God as the all-powerful, all-knowing, all powerful, all-seeing. If you see God as that kind of person, that kind of power. Can't remember. There's a psalm in the Bible. I think it's Psalm. Can't remember the psalm. Yeah, very, very interesting psalm. Talks about how you can't even hide from God in the darkness. If you try to hide from God in darkness, He will even see you. You can't hide from God. So, all seeing, all knowing, for him or for her, in the Bible is him. The Ghana people, Sister Ida's people say God is both man and a woman, male and female. Atad Nanyong, God is both male and female. So they don't believe in a male God. They believe in a God that is both male and female. Anyway, so So the point here is that because they are spokespersons for God, you can't challenge them. What they say becomes final, and then people lose power. People can't speak their mind. People can't do what they like because what the priests say is what goes, and so on and so forth. So those are the other few points I will make, and then to return to the main point, let's not forget it's about a new African society and the fact that the society that we want to create must have a philosophy. What is that philosophy? This paragraph is telling us that it cannot be one that has reference to gods. It will not work. That's what this paragraph is telling us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, brother. So, I'll allow Brother Nkrumah Kafra to share his thinking, but I haven't shared my thinking as well, because all of you had shared your thinking, and Brother Kwame was on left. So, from my own understanding, before I gave it to Brother Nkrumah, who had shared his thinking before, is that yes, there's aspect of this priesthood, and their power is unexplainable. Of course, they can explain it being a divine will or a divine call, which cannot be justified. And trying to justify that or asking about that sometimes raise a lot of questions. But that is not even the issue. It's how they use that power as a tool of exploitation, which is now called theological exploitation. Of course, there's explanations, but it's actually exploitation. Like, for example, people, of course, African leaders and the people, having realized that these people possess the so-called divine power that then gives them the power to decide anything. Like, for example, they say they have the power to heal you if they pray for you. Surprisingly or ironically, they will pray for you to get a vehicle, but will contribute for them to buy one. They can't pray for themselves to get one. But apart from that, is how the political systems of power in Africa has been surrounding this theological thinking in terms of the divine will of power they have. And I'll give critical example. Like, for example, in Kenya, in 2013, towards the election, there was a post-election violence. And current President Ruto and President Uhuru Kenyatta, former president, were part of people who were actually seen as having participated in the deaths of so many people during the post-election violence. But they went and knelt down before a prophet called Prophet Owuor, Dr. Owuor. I think some of you know him. And when they were prayed for, Kenyans believe now they were now holy. They were no longer killers. They've been forgiven. And now they went to him and even asked for votes. And they have voted based on the perception of people feeling that because they knelt before the God, now they are clean people, they can rule again. And that, when they came in, during this time towards the election of 2022, the same president, actually, it's not that I'm talking against him, used the church, and the bishops and pastors and fathers came along to press to say that this is the chosen person of God to run this country. And his competitor was seen as a devilic person who actually works for Satan, Freemason, and the rest of the things. That connotation and thinking alone convinced the masses within the churches to believe on what their priests said, and they voted in that line. So in reality, it still controls our society. But when, for example, now the leadership fails, especially the political or any other leadership fails that has been blessed by the same priest, then they say he's a chosen person of God. So you don't have any right to object, but rather to submit. Because objecting that leader, so-called leader, is objecting the will of God. And those are part of the things that we must start to be awakened and try to look at them differently. Because if we have to proceed in that direction, just the same way Brother Kwame has mentioned, the papal bull of 1452 that was signed by Pope Nicholas II actually instructed the missionaries in part of their journey is to capture, subdue, and conquer any land that was not occupied by Christians as they were not considered to have any land because they were pagans, and land belonged to those who considered as Christian. And that was the genesis of exploration, exploitation, slavery, and so-called missionaries to take over lands. And that then creates that inequality, that those who are called of the God are of higher rank than those who don't go to church or those who are not called of God. And those still in the church, the priesthood, have more power than the congregants. And yet, the same doctrines, either in Quran or Bible, consider that all human beings are equal. So this is an aspect that if you go to the normal society, ordinary citizens of Africa feel that their leaders are more powerful than themselves, and that they, as ordinary citizens, cannot do anything about their welfare until the leader does it. And the leader has to do it either through the divine cause. So we keep on praying for them, either bad leaders to be good leaders, and we believe that God will intervene and change our society and do everything else. We give them Bibles to pray and read where they are suffering and they're under flooding and their exploitation and their welfare is poor. So this is kind of what I'm feeling is being brought out of this paragraph. And then it calls upon us to change our thinking to create that new Africa. That's my thinking. So, Brother Kwame Nkrumah, brother.
Yes, as usual, I wouldn't be too long. Okay, so what I have to say is that African problems need African solutions. And everything I'm hearing here is from a European perspective or Caucasian perspective. All the complaints, which are valid, all the complaints I hear here are valid, but it's valid because it's European concept. Okay?
Wait. What is European and what is complaint?
I will tell you about the gods. A god is not, there's no supernatural anything for Black people. Everything is natural, it's part of nature, and a god is a force of nature. Whether you like it or not, if you jump over a 10,000-foot cliff with rocks below, gravity is going to pull you down and your body is going to be gone. And that is the gods for African people. It's a force of nature. So we need to understand that. As I said, African problems need African solutions. And we also need to have our cosmogony. Everything I'm hearing here is of the Caucasian cosmogony. They don't know what they're doing. That's why the world is so damn messed up. They don't know what they're doing.
Who is Caucasian?
The white man. And for all of them. Furthermore, the white man's power is illusory. It's an illusion. He doesn't have power. Because if he truly had power, he would not have to build up all these weapons of mass destruction and nuclear weapons to threaten you with. It's because he doesn't have power. That's why he has to build up all of this stuff. So he's tricking you. He's giving you the illusion that he has power. And we accept it. Oh, they're so powerful. My foot, they're not powerful. And as long as you don't have this correct self-identity, you will be a slave to this white man. Your identity is that of God. You are a divine being. It is not superstition. 1,000 years ago, if somebody gave you a laptop and a cell phone, you would have said, oh my God, that is supernatural stuff. No, it's not supernatural. It's just that you don't know about it. So when people talk about supernatural, it's just something they don't know about. That's all there is to it. It's a science that they don't know about. And you need to learn that science because that is your science. And I'll give you an example. In the Haitian Revolution, a few Haitian men with 1 or 2 sawed-off shotguns and rusty cutlasses defeated the mighty French. They made Napoleon Bonaparte. His name wasn't Bonaparte before. After the Haitians finished with him, he became Bonaparte. And that is because of the god Ogun, Baba Ogun. It's science. Okay? Imagine a few Haitian men whoop the French, the British, and the Spanish. They're a bunch of batty boys. They have no power. And as long as you remain thinking as a slave, you will always think these people have something over you. And as Malcolm X said, Don't go asking the white man, oh, please, don't hit us so hard. Oh, help us to do this. No. He'll be cuffing you, and as long as you have that attitude, he'll cuff you some more in your face. But once you get your fist and you cuff him back in the face, he can say, okay, let's negotiate. So we have to negotiate not on their principles. You have to learn our principles, which is our spirituality. So you cannot leave our spirituality out of it. It is science. It is our science, and it's a science. They're now getting into our science with this quantum physics and quantum sciences and stuff. Quantum science, that is voodoo. Don't let them fool you. They have been studying it for hundreds of years. And they now, oh, this is quantum physics. My foot is voodoo. You better get into your voodoo. And that's, just one or two more things. The two most important things to one's success in life are one's thoughts and one's energies, as I've heard some people mention here. But we need our thoughts of life. The white man has never built a civilization. We don't live in civilization today. We live in barbarism. It's pure barbarism. So please, I beg of you, do not call what we live in civilization. When the white man first went to Africa, the second time around, I should say, we're not talking about the Greeks, we're talking about the British and the Portuguese and the French. And that. When they first went to Africa this time around, they saw no jails, they saw no policemen, and they saw no damn crime. While Europe was overcrowded, had more criminals outside than inside the jails. We need our way of life. We need our spirituality. It's the first priority, and our spirituality encompasses everything. And as long as we have that attitude that the gods are not going to help. You're talking about European gods. As a matter of fact, the European is a god himself. He set what our ancient ancestors, what the Christians took from our ancient ancestors and call it Satan. And our ancestors depicted Set as a pig eating its own stool. And if you think about it carefully, the white man pollutes the air that we all have to breathe. He pollutes the water we drink. He pollutes the food that we all have to eat. He pollutes the soil that the food grows in, and he pollutes our thoughts. That is Satan himself. That is Set. That's what it means by the white man is the devil. But you're still following his worldview. You're telling me we're not talking about spirituality. We are talking about spirituality. You better embrace your ancient black spirituality, or else your butt is going to be wiped off the planet. Human beings will not survive. Only a God could survive what is coming. Sorry, what is already here. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your thinking. I really appreciate their science being voodoo. It is indeed very true. They actually stole our thinking, and then they made it to appear like their thing. But Brother Michael, then Brother Kwame, you can come in anytime. Brother Mike?
Everything we have has been hijacked. Everything we have got hijacked. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the last speaker was awesome. I mean, that's it. He just told you, we can't be looking for this white man way out, right? To save us, or his philosophies. His philosophies are finished. They're dated, right? And, he gave us the Bible, right? But then he gave us in his interpretation, right? What makes Jesus so special is because he knew who he was, right? In Psalms, David says, you're all gods, children of the Most High God. If Jesus said that God is our Father, and he's the God, he's the supreme being, what does it make us? We're all gods, right? We have the power. We just don't read the book, right? We have these Qurans, but we don't read it. So of course we need someone to translate it for us, to make us feel good, because we're too lazy, right? To read the book. If you read the book, you wouldn't need the priest. You would not be, you wouldn't be a servant to anybody. Everything that we've got is in us. How is God all seeing and all knowing? How does that happen? Is he up in the sky on speed looking down on us? Of course not. He's in every one of us, right? Right? That's how powerful he is, right? In the Holy Quran says, I'm closer to you than your jugular vein. That's our life vein force. That's how close he is. Holy Quran says that on that day, your good deeds will be given to you on your right in a book, right? Will given to you on your right hand and your bad deeds on your left hand. Well, what book can that be? Right? There's no book. Our mind's the book. Our mind, we know what we've done. We know when we've done wrong, right? You don't need no one to tell you you've done wrong. You know you've done wrong, right? When you do good, you know you've done something good because you feel good, right? The brother scientists, they're all ours. They've discovered what we've lost. There's a yoga practice called Kundalini, right? And we've been doing it for trillions of years, right? Right? We've been doing it so long, we can't even explain what it does. But he wanted to know, and he finds out what that type of yoga does and how it re-stimulates and the pineal gland and activates it, right? Because that's his job. He has to find out because he's a new man on the block, right? The brother was right? When John Hawkins went into Africa, he said it was paradise. He said it was heaven. He said we were gods, right? That's what he saw, right? Right? You know, so we've declined because we were allowed to be tricked and bamboozled, right? But that time is up now, right? Right? It's a time that if we don't wake up, if we don't see who we are, yeah, you know, the young people are not wasting time with us. You know, old dinosaurs coming with some ancient philosophy. They already know what's in them, right? You know, it's in their nature now. That's why they act a certain way, right? That's why, right, when they're given a chance, they excel, right? We have to not get in their way. And when you hear brothers like the brother who spoke before, you know, it's all written in book, you know, it's all written. We know who we are. We just have to act on it. So how does a God act? You know, how do we act? Do we need, what's the best religion? You know, if we put it down to the basics, do unto others as you want done to yourself. Treat someone as you want to be treated, right? That's as simple as it can get, right? We can build our world on that, right? Everything we've got will come out of us naturally. We can tap into that quantum field, right? It's, that's why he has to keep us back, right? He cannot let us tap into that, right? Because that's how we functioned for trillions of years, right? So, you know,
okay,
if we accept and we no, last point, that we are all gods, male, female, we're all gods, children of the Most High God, and then we act like a god, right? We don't need no ancient philosophies to tell us rubbish, basically, right? We was doing it for trillions of years. He doesn't even know, you know, he had to learn from us, and he only learned a bit. When you read Herodotus, when Herodotus went into Egypt, you know, he saw gods, right? He saw black men. Didn't see Arabs, he saw black men and women who were ruling Egypt at that time.
Okay.
I rest.
Brother Kwame, can you take over as we finish?
Yeah, brother. I will not take over. I'll make a comment. You can continue sharing. Brother Nkrumah, between him and brother Michael, I think have if you like, affirmed what this paragraph is telling us. Not only this paragraph, but the whole chapter, as I had been indicating, that the whole chapter, the message of the whole chapter is that if we need a new society, we need to look for a new ideology. Sorry, we need a new philosophy that will then let us know what ideologies we need. That's why in chapter 3, we'll look at society and ideology. Because right now we're looking at philosophy and society. So the society that we live in now, wherever you live on this planet, the philosophy that is guiding it is a philosophy of inequality. Some call it white supremacy and so on and so forth. And so what this chapter is seeking us to do is to rethink, think. And I think what Brother Nkrumah, Brother Kafra Nkrumah, all that he said affirms this idea that if we want a new society, we need a new philosophy. And that philosophy cannot be liberalism. It cannot be conservatism. It cannot be European or Eurocentric Marxism. And it cannot be social reformism, which is a version of liberalism. None of those four major Western philosophies can help us to create a new society. Yeah. So we have to be mindful of them. What this paragraph is telling us, which Brother Nkrumah again emphasized, is the reference to gods in this paragraph is the reference to, if you like, the European or the Eurocentric perspective. Let's be mindful, however, that Europeans really have no gods. Their gods are basically the African gods that the Romans took, because the Romans, so the Greeks took the gods from us, because remember some of the Greeks were Africans. Yeah, not all Greeks were non-Africans, remember that. And so the cosmos, or the cosmogony, as if you like, of the gods, if you like, which you can interpret as the planets, the planetary system. Now that was taken by the Greeks, then the Romans took it, and then the Europeans took it, and the Romans introduced it to the Europeans. So let's be mindful that it is still ours. It's just that it has been changed here and there, stolen here and there, and so on. But fundamentally, that philosophy is our philosophy. Okay, the Africans who left Africa and went to Europe, to what was then that place which became Spain. Yeah, those Africans took with them knowledge, and I think we've looked at the fact that knowledge left our continent. Yeah, Cleopatra, who flirted with the Roman Emperor Julius Caesar and had a son with him, took a lot of our manuscripts to Rome. Aristotle, who was a teacher of Alexander, who became the Great, who I call the thief. Remember, he inspired Alexander to come and steal our manuscript as well. Right? So don't forget that. And also, there was a fire. There was a fire. It was an accident, by the way, but it burnt a lot of our manuscripts. Then apart from that, during the Christian era, the Pope allowed what were then called pagans the Christians, because the knowledge was seen as paganism, incorrect that is. And they came and they destroyed a lot of manuscripts. Some of them were rescued, but a lot were destroyed. So not only was our knowledge stolen, they were systematically destroyed, and so on and so forth. So let's be mindful of that. Anyway, in short, if we want to create a new society, we need a new philosophy. But that philosophy cannot be idealism. That's what this paragraph is telling us.
Thank you.
It has to be materialism.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. Permit me to allow Sister Tapua to share thinking with us.
Yeah. Can I make a quick comment? Just a very brief one. Brother Nkrumah mentioned quantum physics. quantum physics, and we've also mentioned the general theory of relativity. Quantum is in this book, but it's not mentioned as much as the relative and general theory of relativity. Yeah, but quantum is also in this book, because quantum looks at the microscopic universe, and Brother Carrington, our resident physicist, will tell us more about that. And relativity looks at the macro world. Now, the quick point I want to make is that the essence of the general theory of relativity is that it unified space. It also unified time, and it unified space, time, and it also unified, if you like, geometry, whether curves as opposed to straight surfaces or planes. Now, philosophically, what does that mean? It means what Africans have been saying, that our ancestors are with us. If you are able to unify scientifically time, space, and geometry, what are you saying? You are saying that as I'm sitting here, my ancestors are with me, but then so are my progeny are also inside me. That is what you are saying philosophically. That's what you are saying. Thank you.
I like that part that you brought for the first time. It's actually, Brother Kafara said, it's voodoo, but in reality,
well, the word voodoo, I have said it before, that is from my language, is voodoo. Voodoo means the liberation of a city or a town or a nation or a state. In other words, the scientific, mathematical, technological, and engineering knowledge that you need to liberate a city. That is what voodoo means, which is voodoo. They call it voodoo, and then the Europeans call voodoo. But it's voodoo.
I wanted to respond to something you said.
No, let me allow Sister Tapua to speak first. Brother
all right, no problem.
Okay, I'll not speak. Let Sister Tapua speak. We have 9 minutes to go. Sister Tapua?
Thank you. I was enjoying that discussion, and I've loved to hear Nkrumah make his contribution. But anyway, mine is simple, because I'm looking at the priests wielding power. And in the part of Africa where I'm from, power, particularly religious power, did not reside in one person. What surprised the Europeans when they came to this part of the world was every home had its own altar, where people in that home would say their prayers. They struggled to get anyone out to this powerful person who's supposed to wield all this power. And they had to come up with all sorts of tricks to get people to get out of their homes and meet in this big building with this person who then started saying they have all the power. Because even in terms of what I would equate to priests, the rainmakers and so on, a lot of them did not have that power invested in their being, but it was a power that was coming from elsewhere, which they couldn't claim and which they were not able to use to oppress others or to lord it over anybody. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the last few sentences. And if their power is thought of as being rooted in the divine, it becomes hard to contest. We didn't have that. Everyone was powerful in their own way, therefore assumes the form of an authoritarianism, which, if unhindered, can come to revel in the most extreme oppression. What we're having, like our brother is saying, is the European version of how priests presented themselves and the power they had. And I also would like to say the last sentence there, the history of societies in which priests have wielded political power. That's not our history. Abundantly illustrates this tendency, which is not our tendency, because ours is to be inclusive and to understand that a person is a person because of another person. In that way, we then become the gods. So we need to go back to the role that totally disowns this particular priest and priesthood and the way it's been presented to us. Because I think that's what's causing the current problems that we have with the church. Because sometimes the church just takes people for a ride. I yield.
So Sister Tapua, so you are confirming again what the paragraph is telling us, that yes, we should not do that. That is what we shouldn't do. And if we want a new society, we can't build it on this kind of priesthood.
No, we can't.
That's the point you are making.
Yes.
Okay, brother Nkrumah, a few minutes. We are about to wind up.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. I wanted to respond to something the brother said. With this example, George James wrote his book Stolen Legacy, right? And in it, he states that Greek philosophy is ancient Egyptian philosophy. That is totally false. Greek philosophy is distorted ancient Egyptian philosophy. A cancer cell comes from a normal cell, but it ain't a normal cell. So don't make any comparisons. This society we live in, taking the world off a precipice towards the pits of hell. Our society was focused on making everyone realize their godliness, their divinity, while still on it. And that's the point I wanted to bring out. This is not the same thing. They copied from us, but their brains could not help but distort it. And it's almost the opposite.
Yeah, but brother,
it's diametrical.
But brother Nkrumah, if ours was so powerful, how come we are where we are today?
Excellent question, and I answered it before. Because it was the white man's.
Sorry?
It was the white man's time in the sun. You have to study astrological sciences for that.
Well,
everybody has their turn in the sun, and he was given the power to rule. Mango trees, mangoes don't have, not always in season.
Nkrumah, by who gave him the power to rule?
Nature.
Sorry?
Nature. Everybody has to have their time in the sun. Everybody has civilizations rise and civilizations fall because of this. As a matter of fact, ancient black civilizations were never conquered. You know that, right? They died of old age. Kemet lasted for over 103,000 years. It was time for it to go. So they died of old age. So it's not that we were really conquered. It's old age. And it was for this white man to come in and rule. And then you also have to understand the purpose of evil.
So you're suggesting that
because
whatever society we hear, when we come away understanding that if we want a new society, we must have a new philosophy. You are saying that whatever society we create will grow old and die away.
Yes.
And therefore, we should look forward to future oppression.
No.
If that is the case, well, it's a possibility.
No. We should look forward to future Haitian revolutions.
Yeah. So given in the future, what has happened in the past can happen again. Now, if that is the case, following by what you said, if that is the case, then should we not be thinking of a philosophy that will ensure that we don't go down that path?
That is correct. And that is our ancient black philosophy, cosmogony, because it was steeped in nature. Nature governs everything. Your concept of God, everything, nature governs. The reason why the white man has his concept of God is because of his brains. He's a left-sided brain thinker, but that's a long story. I don't want to get into that now.
But
Okay.
please just permit me to cut you short because it's 2 minutes. And I want Brother the King Mauli just to say something in a minute, then we close.
No
but
problem.
We can have,
no
as I've
problem.
said, we can create a session for this discussion, which we are bringing on Black spirituality and that aspect in our Saturday class for a proper presentation and discussion around this, if we permit it.
No problem. No problem.
Thank
And thanks for giving me all the time that you have.
Thank you very much. The King Maudi, please.
It's a discussion class.
Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. I just want to come to the philosophical aspect of what Brother Nkrumah is saying. You see, we've had our time, and time has passed and gone. However, as Brother Kojo is saying, our elder Kojo is saying, we can't say that we should allow nature to control everything. There should be a vanguard that handles everything. And I think it is out of that vanguard situation that the concept of God and all those things came about. However, if we are revisiting a philosophy that will work for us, we need to go beyond the philosophy itself and not the God aspect and all those stuff. So I disagree with where he says that we should go back to our ancient philosophy, because if it had helped us, we wouldn't be where we are currently. Would have, yes. Okay, let me leave it here.
Okay, we might have, and this next class is a continuation of this. So let's continue the discussion because our reading continues. So let's continue, and I believe this is not a stop of our conversation. It's a continuation as we pick the next paragraphs, as more ideas come in and more concepts are being brought in, we share more of our thinking. So it's a build-up of our conversation, comrades. So permit me to end here. Sister Ida, we are ending.
Yes, good.
Okay, thank you, brother.
I just unmuted to say bye-bye.
Okay,
yeah,
brother,
we're good. We're good now. Yeah.
Brother Kwame, let me say that just for your announcement that this Saturday we are going to part 2 of Africa unification. Brother Taiwo, who has left, actually presented to us part 1 in terms of ethno-linguistic majorities and the setups as an hindrance towards a unified Africa. We are going to look at it deeply. Can African ethnicity and nationality actually come together? Leave the countries like Kenya, Uganda, whatever. Ethnicity and nationalities come together to form a United Nations of Africa. So that will be our part 2 of conversation this coming Saturday. We look at it critically and see what can come out of that conversation. So this is this coming Saturday, 7 p.m. London time, 6 p.m. GMT, which is Ghana, Nigeria time, and 2 p.m. Caribbean time. Then on next Thursday, we are going to continue from where we've left it. This is our class. You are free to share your thinking, and we allow you to share your thinking as much as you can, because we don't make your thinking final. We are guided with the reading of the book. Thank you very much, all comrades.
Thank you. Great session, guys.
Thank you, Pigeon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Excellent.
Good night,
sharing.
everybody. Bye-bye. Bye.